on page 81, A3.
Correct.
Tractate Chullin, p.81, chapter 5. The name of the chapter is Ch5 Beno. Echad b'fnim ve'echad b'chutz. In a case where initially one of the offering was slaughtered inside the temple, and then the other one was slaughtered outside the temple. Rabbon, according to the rabbis, Rishon kosher ufat. The first offering, everything was done right. It was shechted inside the temple. First offering is valid, and slaughter is exempt of any violation. Sheini pasul ufatu. Second offering, however, is unfit to be brought to the temple that day. Accordingly, its slaughter is exempt of violating the prohibition against slaughtering an offspring outside the temple. It was what is called mechus hazman. It was not ready to be brought on that day, right? Because the mother was shechted on that day. So that he didn't do that violation. But he did violate the prohibition of Ch5 Beno, right? So he's potter from chorus.
Wait a minute.
But he's liable to lashes.
Okay, so the first one he put inside, all fine and good. The second one he went outside, it was the baby or the calf or whatever. So he was, usually we would think he was chayiv and Chullin, the one outside the base of English and also Beno, right? So what happened here that why does that take the Osa Beno take precedence over the Chutz base of English? All right, I guess we'll see.
Well, think of it this way, just to simplify it. The first one, he shechted inside the temple, he didn't commit any violation.
Right.
The second one, he didn't commit the violation of outside the temple because the animal was not ready to be brought in. Why wasn't it ready?
Because it was the Osa Beno.
Right.
Okay.
So it's mechus hazman. So now the second one, he shechs the second one, is potter from that violation, from doing it outside. Right? But he is liable for Malchus because of Ch5 Beno. But they don't mention Malchus because they speak about chorus.
Right.
When it says potter, it says Sheini pasul, it's speaking about chorus. He's potter from chorus.
Now I get it. Okay, thanks.
But he did violate Ch5 Beno.
Right.
That's the opinion of the rabbis up till now. Now, Rabbi Shimon, according to Rabbi Shimon, Sheini b'lo taseh. The second slaughterer is subject to a negative commandment against slaughtering outside the temple. Why? According to Rabbi Shimon, he did violate a negative prohibition. Why? Because the first one is not considered shchita, so the second one was ready for. Why the second was not good shchita?
Because when you shecht in the base of English, the only time it's ready for eating is after you do
the zrika. So therefore, it's not according to Rabbi Shimon, the shchita in the inside the mikdash was not considered shchita, and therefore, as we said in the beginning, I think we mentioned it yesterday and the day before, that to Rabbi Shimon, Ch5 Beno doesn't apply to kochim. When it comes to kochim, it doesn't apply Ch5 Beno because it's not a real shchita. It's shchita, but that shchita does not permit the meat. The zrika permits the meat. So according to Rabbi Shimon, the violation really happens it happens even with the second one. The violation of outside the temple is happening with the second one, because first one he did inside the temple, it's fine. But now there's no problem with Beno, like we said, and he's shechting the second one outside. He's violating. It's not mechus hazman. It's ready to be offered, according to Rabbi Shimon. The second one is ready to be offered. It's good. The second one can be offered. According to Chachamim, you can't offer the second one because you just shechted the mother. According to Rabbi Shimon, you can offer, and because you can offer it, and you did shecht it outside, you violated. No, he violates the kochim. He shechting kochim outside. Yeah, according to Chachamim, he didn't shecht kochim outside. Yeah, so over here it doesn't say the word karet, but he said he violated a negative commandment. He's subject to a negative commandment against slaughtering outside the temple. Shimon does not, however, the second slaughter liable for violation of Beno, because since this offering is disqualified on account of him, its slaughter is unfit. Okay, so the Gemara says, now, if you follow the reasoning of Rabbi Shimon, that it and its offspring, meaning shechting the mother and the son on the same day, does not apply to kochim, like the opinion of Rabbi Shimon, does not apply to consecrated food. Amai sheni amai b'lo yisaise v'tulo. In the last case, referring to the case of echad b'chutz, echad b'fnim ve'echad b'chutz. That was the case. One inside, one outside. And we said sheni violates a negative commandment. Sheni amai b'lo yisaise v'tulo. In the last case, why the second slaughter is subject to negative commandment and no more? You should also liable to chorus. Right? Remember you said you're liable to chorus. I said no, it doesn't say he's liable to chorus. It only says he's liable to negative command. He violated negative commandment. So the Gemara says, according to your reasoning of Shimon, you should be liable to chorus. Chorus nami lichayev. Should also be liable to chorus. This is what Rav Amnuna meant to say. En malkois oisoves benoi nag v'kochim. According to Rabbi Shimon, the penalty of lashes for a violation of it and its offspring does not apply to kochim. You can tell them to lower the voice. I hear it. According to Rabbi Shimon, the penalty of lashes for a violation of it and its offspring does not apply to kochim.
Why? Because he doesn't consider the first one shchita. Because this?
Second. Now the Gemara says the reason why it and its offspring does not apply to kochim. The reasons that we know before. Since the meat is now rendered permissible for consumption until the blood of the offering is thrown upon the altar, and at the time of the slaughter, it is not known whether the blood will in fact be thrown. How do you know that maybe the blood will be spilled, and then it's not going to be kosher. The meat would never be fit. Meat nadeka shachit merges at the moment that one slaughters an offering whose parent or offspring had been slaughtered that day, is warned that he is committing a transgression. It is uncertain warning. Why it is uncertain warning? It says in 26, for if the blood of the offering that he is now slaughtering is not thrown, the meat will not become permissible, and it will thus emerge that his shchita is unfit and does not count toward a violation of Oisas Beno. He can be warned only that he is doing a possible violation, because if the blood is later thrown, it will have transgressed Oisas Beno. In order for the court to administer any form of corporal punishment, such as malchus, the sinner must be warned immediately prior to his transgression that what he is about to do is forbidden and will make him liable to prescribed penalty. An uncertain warning is one in which the person cannot be informed with certainty that by proceeding with what he is about to do, he will be guilty of the punishable offense. So he says, Me'idna de kashochi, that the moment that one slaughters an offering whose parent or offspring had been slaughtered that day, and is warned that he is committing a transgression, it is uncertain warning. An uncertain warning is not considered a valid warning. It says 27, it is a matter of dispute whether an uncertain warning qualifies as valid warning that can trigger corporal punishment. Rav Nuna explains Rabbi Shimon as holding that an uncertain warning is not valid. According to this explanation, Rabbi Shimon can see that it is prohibited for a person to slaughter an offering whose parent or offspring was slaughtered that day. For since if the blood of this offering is later thrown, its shchita will retroactively be considered fit, and the slaughterer, the shechet, will have transgressed the prohibition of oisoi ve'es benoi. The slaughter cannot be punished with malchus because since it is not the second animal slaughtered, since it is not known in advance whether the blood will be thrown, and thus it is not known at the time of shchita whether the slaughter will be termed fit, it is impossible for him to receive a valid warning when he commits the act. This is what Rav Nuna meant when he said that according to Rabbi Shimon, the malchus penalty for Israel does not apply to kochim. Because at the time of shchita, you really don't know if he's going to throw the blood or not. So it's like he has to take two steps. He has to take two steps in order to do it. And so over here we're going into another debate, another concept. What do you do? What is there? If uncertain warning is sufficient or not? Uncertain warning, because you have to warn somebody in order for him to be liable to any punishment, and malchus as well. In order for him to be liable to lashes, you have to warn him before the act that he's about to do. But how can you warn him about shchita? Shchita is allowed to do. The throwing of the blood is what going to triggers the whole thing. What triggers the whole thing, according to Rabbi Shimon, the throwing of blood. So the warning was done at the shchita. It's considered uncertain warning. The Gemara comments about Rava's interpretation of Rav Nuna. V'az the Rava l'tamei. Rava follows his own reasoning. The Amar Rava said, "He Chullin uvna shlomim." If an animal is Chullin and its offspring is shlomim offering, one is Chullin, one is shlomim, and both are slaughtered on one day, the law is as follows: Shochat Chullin v'achar כך shochat shlomim. If one slaughtered the Chullin animal and then slaughtered the shlomim offering, so first Chullin, then shlomim, potu, he is exempt from malchus according to Rabbi Shimon. Shlomim ve'achar כך Chullin, but if he first slaughtered the Shlomim offering, and its blood was thrown upon the altar. And he then slaughtered the Chullin animal chayav. He is liable to Malkus even according to Rabbi Shimon.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Now, why? So he writes in 29, because once the blood of the Shlomim was thrown, its slaughter was defined as fit, as a fit shchita, making the slaughter of its offspring definitely forbidden that day. And since the latter animal is Chullin, the second animal is Chullin, and does not need to have its blood thrown, the shchita itself renders it permissible for consumption. Thus it is fit shchita, and the slaughterer can be decisively warned before committing the act.
So he would need to get warned before putting the blood.
No,
Before the
no, yeah, but in that case, he would be warned. In a regular case, he would be warned before shchita. The witnesses don't know if he will throw the blood or not. So shchita is something that they can see he's doing.
You need to have more witnesses by where they sprinkle it. That way you can ask
Right.
him there again.
Possible, but in our case, where he shechts Chullin second, then he can be warned before the shchita, because the shchita will permit the meat. Then he is liable to oisoi ves benoi. A related ruling by Rava. V'amar Rava, he Chullin uvna oilo. If an animal is Chullin, and its offspring is an oil offering, and both are slaughtered on one day, the law is as follows. Okay? One Chullin and the son is oil. The offspring is oil. Loi mi bayo shochat Chullin v'achar kach shochat oil de poto. It is unnecessary to state that if one first slaughtered the Chullin animal and then slaughtered the oil offering, he is exempt from Malkus according to Rabbi Shimon. The reason we mentioned before that he cannot be warned with certainty before committing the act that he slaughtered will be fit shchita, that will violate the prohibition of Oisaves Benoi. That was in note 28. Shochat Chullin v'agar shochat oil the potter. That's what we learned before. First shechting Chullin and then shechting oil. And then shechting oil, we mentioned the case of Shlomim, but it says it is unnecessary to state that if one first slaughtered Chullin animal and then slaughtered the oil offering, is exempt from Malkus according to Rabbi Shimon. Ela afilu shochat oil v'achar shochat Chullin potu. But even if one first slaughtered the oil offering and threw its blood, and then slaughtered the Chullin animal, potu, he is exempt from Malkus according to Rabbi Shimon. Why? Shechito kamaiso lav shchito basachile. So the reason is because the first slaughter was not a slaughter that rendered the animal fit for consumption, since an oila is burnt in its entirety on the altar.
Never be a shchita.
Yeah, so only a Shlomim. The Rabbi Yaakov Omar Rabbi Yochanan, dissenting opinion. Rabbi Yaakov said, "Achilas mizbeach shmo achila," but the consumption by the altar pyre is permitted consumption, since the slaughter of an oila renders it fit for this form of consumption, that the altar can now consume the korban. It is considered a shchita, even according to Rabbi Shimon. My time, what is the reason? On what basis do I say that consumption by the altar pyre is termed consumption? The scripture states, and if some of the meat of the Shlomim offering will be consumed at all. The repetition of the verb, he'ochel ye'ochel, literally, consumed, will be consumed, indicates v'shtei achilas hakosum v'daber. We're dealing with two types of consumption, echad achilas odom ve'echad achilas mizbeach. One the consumption of the person, one the consumption of the mizbeach. So we see that consumption by the altar pyre is termed consumption. It says in number 5, accordingly a slaughter that renders the meat fit for consumption by the altar is considered a fit shchita, and it counts toward a violation of Oisav et Benoi. This too follows Rav Amnuna's reasoning. According to Rabbi Yeshaya, the slaughter is not considered fit, since just as the meat of an offering may not be eaten until the blood is thrown, so too the sacrificial parts may not be burnt on the altar until that time that the blood is thrown. The slaughter itself does not permit any form of consumption. Shechita itself doesn't do it. So Rav Amnuna, Rabbi Shimon, they stick their ground. It's still like okay. A new Mishnah. The Mishnah discusses various cases of a slaughter that does not render the animal fit for consumption, setting down the law regarding all these cases. If one slaughtered an animal and it is found to be treifa. Why is it treifa? So it has a physical defect. They find some physical defect. But it's a physical defect that makes it prohibited for consumption. Or one slaughters an animal for idolatry. Poras chatos, one who slaughters pora aduma. What's the problem with pora aduma? Shechting the pora aduma. It says the pora aduma is the red cow whose ashes were used to effect purification from corpse tumah. It was slaughtered in a designated place on the Mount of Olives, which faces the portals of the temple. It was then burnt on a pyre, and its ashes were mixed with water. This water was sprinkled on people and utensils that had become tameh through a corpse, as part of the process of purification from tumah. The slaughtered pora aduma is not fit for consumption even if slaughtered properly, since the pora aduma is consecrated. The law of Me'ilah renders it prohibited for benefit until it is reduced to ashes. It has to be reduced to ashes, as the Gemara in Menachos. It says in the Gemara in Menachos. Now, the pora aduma can actually be redeemed and deconsecrated, thereby becoming permitted for consumption. In its current state, however, it is prohibited, and the Mishnah therefore considers its slaughter unfit. So it seems like he's shechting the pora aduma for its meat. So therefore, if you're shechting it for its meat, you're making it unfit. V'sher anisko, or a bull that is sentenced to be stoned. Why? It's a concept of shor muad. An ox killed people, so it's shor aniska.
How do you say in English this? When the bull does this?
Gore.
Gore?
Yeah, if he's goring, a bull that kills a person is stoned. Once the court has determined its guilt and sentenced it to stoning, it is prohibited for all benefit. From that point on, you can't benefit. Even if the owner preempts the court and slaughters it, it may not be eaten.
What do you do with it? They sell the meat? They sell?
No, It needs to be stoned,
But
the ox.
Why did
You can't get it.
So what the guy wanted to shecht it quickly, so
Before
they
stone.
don't get a chance to stone it. They tell him there's no use to do it because you can't use the meat anyway. Can't sell it, you can't have a benefit from it. May not be eaten. Maybe you can sell the meat, but I doubt it. Anyway, so it says, Vashech et pos chatos, shir anisko, vegla rufo, or a calf is designated to be decapitated. It was designated to be decapitated in shechset. And he also slaughters its parent or offspring that day. Rabbi Shimon Peter, Rabbi Shimon exempt him from Malchus if he shechted the Egla Rufa and its mother on the same day. Rabbi Shimon Peter v'chacham v'chayvim. Shimon says he is exempt from Malchus. The sages hold him liable. V'chacham v'chayvim. If one slaughters an animal, it became nevela through his hand. What do I mean? How did it become nevela? So it says in number 13, he attempts to slaughter it properly, but unwittingly ruins the shechita. For example, by inadvertently pausing in the middle. So he turns it to nevela, and thereby renders it nevela. Or one who pierces or tears out an animal pipes and slaughters its parent or offspring that day, Patu. Mishum Oisav es Benoi. All agree that he is not liable on account of the prohibition of it and its offspring. Why? It says in 15, even the sages agree that in these cases there is no violation. Since one of the animals was not slaughtered at all, either because the person unwittingly bungled the shechita, or because he intentionally mangled the pipes. The sages disagree with Rabbi Shimon only regarding the earlier cases where a valid shechita was performed and the animal is unfit for consumption because of an extraneous factor. The Mishnah's statement that he is not liable on account of Oisav es Benoi implies that he is liable on account of some other prohibition. This is because one who pierces or tears out an animal pipes transgresses the prohibition against causing unnecessary pain to living creatures, and against wasting valuable food, bal tashchis. That's from Rabbi Akiva Eger on the Mishnah. So the Gemara discusses the sage's opinion that a person who slaughters an animal and its offspring is liable to malchus, even if one of the animals is slaughtered for idolatry. So you can argue that it's not a proper shechita. Why should he be liable to shechting afterwards the son? If he shechted the mother for idolatry, it's not what the shechita did not permit the meat, right?
Yeah.
And then he shechted the son for regular purposes. Why is it? Why is he not liable to Isav es Benoi?
Should not be liable.
Should not be. Why is he liable? According to Chachamim. Omar Rabbi Shimon ben Lakish, lo yishanu ela sheshachat rishon la'aved zor v'sheni l'shulchane. They taught this case only regarding a case where one slaughtered the first animal for idolatry and then slaughtered the second animal for consumption at his table. But if one slaughtered the first animal for consumption at his table, and he then slaughtered the second animal for idolatry. Potu, he is not liable for Malchus for his violation. Why? Because he stands liable to the penalty greater than Malchus. What is the penalty greater than Malchus in this case? He stands liable to the penalty greater than that. State that a person cannot incur the death penalty and another liability simultaneously. So if he commits an act that should result in the death penalty as well as Malchus, is subject only to the more severe of the two, the death penalty, and does not receive Malchus. So that's the concept of Kimla B'derav, meaning that we're only giving him the severe punishment. Even if he has, Yaakov said, we don't throw the book at him. If you throw the book at him, then he would be liable to both, Malchus. But we don't do that. But why is it liable to death? Because of shechting the animal for idolatry. אמר לרבי יוחנן זו אפילו תינוק שבעשרה בן יהודי נויסה. This principle that we do not impose two punishments for a single act, even school children know. Your qualification of the Mishnah's ruling is so obvious, it is not even needed to be stated. Ella, rather, if you wish to inform us something novel regarding the sage's ruling, say the following. Sometimes it can occur that even if one slaughtered the first animal for consumption at his table, and then slaughtered the second one for idolatry, he is liable to Malchus for his violation of Oisav es Benoi. This pertains in a case where when he was about to slaughter the second animal, they warned him about the violation of Oisav es Benoi. So they gave him only one warning. They say, you're not allowed to shech the mother and the son the same day, but they didn't mention idolatry. Since in this case, he does not receive the greater penalty for his violation of idolatry, he does receive Malchus for his violation of Oisav es Benoi.
Because no one told him.
Obviously, the Chullin was considered shchita.
The first one.
Yeah. The second one, according to Chachamim, it's not fit, but since he was warned, he should be getting Malchus. So Rabbi Shimon Laki Shomar Kevan Dechasu Bipotu Kirasu Beinam Bipotu. Rabbi Shimon Laki says, if they would warn him about the violation of idolatry, he would not be liable to Malchus for the violation of Oisav es Benoi. Kirasu Beinam Bipotu. Even when they do not warn him about the violation of idolatry, he is not liable to Malchus for the violation of Oisav es Benoi. Rish Lakish therefore stated unequivocally, and its offspring, that when the second animal is slaughtered for idolatry, the violator does not incur Malchus. He means to inform us that this holds true even if the violator was not warned about the death penalty and it thus not executed. 22. It gives sources to different commentators. The Rashbach, Choshen, Yeshuas, Chasam Sefer, and Teos Chaim Yeshuas. The Gemara comments regarding this dispute. V'ozur Tamayu, and this matter that Rabbi Yochanan and Rish Lakish are consistent with their opinion stated elsewhere. The Chiyos Avdim Yomar, for an Avdim came from Eretz Yisrael to Babylonia, he reported the following discussion. Chayove Misois Sheyin, with regard to those acting inadvertently, who commit acts for which they would be liable to death penalty, had they acted deliberately. V'chayove Malchus Sheyin, and those acting inadvertently who commit acts for which they would be liable to lashes had they acted deliberately, and who simultaneously incur liability to something else. 24. What is something else? The Gemara refers to a case where a person did an act that bears the penalty for either death or malchus if done deliberately with prior warning, but he did it in a manner that does not allow the severe penalty to be imposed. He acted inadvertently or without advance warning, and he simultaneously incurred a lesser penalty for another violation. A case involving death and a lesser penalty is the one discussed above when a person slaughtered adultery an animal parent. Offspring had already been slaughtered that day, and he was not warned about the death penalty for idolatry, but he was warned about the malchus penalty for Isav's Beno.
There's no tshuva for him. Or?
So let's see. And Rabbi Yochanan says he's liable to the lesser penalty. Rabbi Shlokish says he's exempt from the lesser penalty. If indeed they did not warn him. Shlakish says that he is exempt from the lesser penalty. Why? For since if they would warn him, he would be exempt from the lesser penalty. When they do warn him, he is also exempt. It says in 26, Rish Lakish follows his previously stated position that whenever one does an act that bears a severe penalty, any lesser penalty that he incurs through the same act cannot be imposed.
He's going to die.
No, but it cannot be imposed because you didn't warn him. You didn't warn him about the death penalty. They warned him about malchus. He's not even getting malchus because if he would have done it, if they would have warned him about, if they would warn them not to do idolatry, he would not be liable to malchus anyway. So even if they warn him about malchus, he's not getting malchus according to Rish Lakish.
But there's no chance of tshuva, even if they warn him and he did for Avodah Zarah. No chance of.
No, because they tell him, you know that it's you're doing idolatry is prohibited. He said, I know. You know that you're going to get a death penalty. He says, I do. So what? You can do vidui, but he still has to get he still has to be. He can do tshuva, but he needs to get the punishment regardless.
And the punishment is part of the tshuva.
Today, they don't have capital punishment and they don't have the Sanhedrin, so everyone can do tshuva, even for these things.
Better.
Maybe this is
Or nobody can do tshuva because they escape.
What?
It was since we don't have the
Sanhedrin, right?
and we don't have the malchus and whatever, and then they could,
In escape, you're saying.
Yeah, not olam hazeh, not olam haba.
Right. But escape means that they can still do tshuva.
Right. Well, they have till they die. So we have to keep going.
But if it's part of the tshuva, then how can you do complete tshuva without receiving the lashes or that? That's part of the tshuva.
Right. So it could. It says that they could be exchanged with other things. Sometimes people go through different things in life that it's exchanged for that form of punishment. Rish Lakish says he's exempt from the lesser penalty. So that's where we're holding. The Gemara explains why Rabbi Yochanan and Rish Lakish needed to debate this matter twice. And both discussions are necessary. Both discussions are necessary. For if they had informed us the dispute regarding this case of our Mishnah, where the violator performed a slaughter that potentially carries 2 corporal penalties of death and Malchus, we might have said, regarding this case, Rabbi Shimon ben Lakish states that even when the severe corporal penalty of death is not imposed, the violator stands exempt from the lesser corporal penalty of Malchus. But regarding that other case where the violator did an act, that potentially carries the corporal penalty of either death or Malchus, along with monetary liability, I can say that Rish Lakish concedes with Rabbi Yochanan that when the corporal penalty is not imposed, the violator stands liable to his monetary obligation. The latter dispute is thus needed to inform us that Rish Lakish maintains his lenient opinion even regarding a case where one of the penalties is corporal and the other is monetary. And if the dispute had been stated regarding that case where the violator did an act that potentially carries a corporal penalty along with monetary liability, we might have said, regarding this case, Rabbi Yochanan states, when the corporal penalty, the death penalty, is not imposed, the violator stands liable to his monetary obligation. Regarding this case of our Mishnah, where the violator did an act that potentially carries 2 corporal penalties of death and Malchus, I can say that Rabbi Yochanan considers Rabbi Shimon ben Lakish that even when the severe corporal penalty of death is not imposed, the violator is exempt from the lesser corporal penalty of Malchus. The former dispute is thus needed to inform us that Rabbi Yochanan maintains his stringent opinion even regarding a case where both penalties are corporal in nature, tzricha, thus both disputes are necessary. In 31 it says, just read the first paragraph, it says, from the 2 disputes we learn that Rish Lakish and Rabbi Yochanan are in dispute regarding all cases in which 2 penalties are applicable, but the violator does not receive the more severe penalty. He acted unwittingly or was not forewarned. Rish Lakish exempts him from the lesser penalty, even when it's merely a monetary liability, whereas Rabbi Yochanan holds him liable even when it is a form of corporal punishment, Malchus. The Mishnah list, going back to the Gemara, the Mishnah list of slaughters that are not fit, for which Rabbi Shimon exempt the slaughter for Malchus, includes the slaughter of Pora Aduma. The Gemara questions this inclusion. Now, if the slaughter of a Pora Aduma indeed considered a slaughter that is not fit, according to Rabbi Shimon, but it was taught in a Brisa, Shimon says, Poro metamo tumas ochlin, the meat of a slaughtered Pora Aduma conveys food tuma. It says in 33, it is considered food in regard to the law of tuma, and hence it can contract tuma and convey it to other food that it touches. Contract and then conveys. Note that our text reads Poro metama tumas ochlin, Pora Aduma conveys food tuma. Other texts read Poro mitama tumas ochlin. Pora Aduma contracts food tuma. Okay. Now, Poro metamo, Rabbi Shimon poro metamo to masoch il vayisol shasa kosher. Why? Why does it conveys food tuma? It had a moment of fitness. That is, although we are prohibited to derive benefit from the meat, it is subject to the law of food tuma because it was at one point it was fit to be eaten.
When?
Like we said, you can exchange it.
Paraduma?
Yeah, can be redeemed.
Mm.